some change in yourself, some change in the world, in work. And I find mental models to be helpful ways of having something kind of in the back of my mind to listen through, a filter, to place things on a bit of a map or a framework. And this model has been particularly useful for me as a lot of the work that I do that is done with this approach to leading in complexity. I very often begin with a client, with a group of people, walking through the two loops model. Because usually I get the phone call when people are in a really kind of difficult change moment at some scope or scale in their work. They tend to say, "Hi, can you help with strategic planning?" Which is almost never what they need. And I say, "Tell me more." So I just want to walk you through this model so you begin to see the different stages of a life cycle. So this pattern isn't sort of invented. It's a pattern from nature. Most of the patterns that we work with in the art of hosting are what I call living systems patterns. So this is sort of living systems leadership. So if this were drawn on paper, you would see one swoop that goes this way, some dots, and another swoop that goes this way, and a bridge connecting them. So I'm going to start on this side. And this is on a timeline from now into the future. Okay? How many of you have had a garden or have some experience of someone in your family or friends linked to growing plants? Okay. So if this metaphor doesn't make sense, if I'm a gardener, here it's spring, I've planted some seeds, my seeds start to grow, they're little plants. It takes a lot of work when plants are little. You have to water them every day, keep the weeds back so that they have not too much competition. It's kind of a daily, quite a lot of work. And then they get bigger and stronger. And come midsummer, I've got all, tomatoes coming and all these wonderful vegetables. I don't have to weed quite as much because I did a good job taking care of that when they were little. Lots of abundance here, like this is the best part of summer, right? Just go out and pick your dinner. But the cycle is going to start closing as summer comes to an end, fall comes, like it's inevitable, even though I want it to stay right here where I can have as many tomatoes as I want. The tomatoes know it's coming. They can tell the light is changing, and they start dropping seeds, right? Because I only plant heirloom varieties that would do that. But invariably, the season comes to a close, and those plants start dying, and I eventually have to put the garden to bed for the winter, and it all goes into the compost pile. Yeah? Which can be ugly and messy and smelly, but it's actually where all the nutrient condenses into just the gold, right? This is the best part. That as those little seeds that jumped off midsummer go underground and begin to grow, this compost is what I use to nurture them, to help them get stronger and to grow and to start a new cycle, right? And then they emerge, they come up, and now we've got another cycle to grow and another garden. Yeah? Simple, simple? And all the things I've learned from growing this garden this year, I carry with me across the bridge into the garden next year. I learned which plants like to be near which plants and who doesn't, and what helps fertilize and what doesn't. It's just a living system, very simple. Happens out in the woods, happens in my body. But we get really attached to things right about here, right? You've nurtured them, you've really built it. You really would like this part of the cycle to stay the same. So this living systems patterns is not only true in nature, it's true in any human system. It's true in an organization that, I've started a new organization. I care so deeply about this. I'm going to start an organization. Isabel's laughing. I have started too many organizations. And you get really attached. These are your babies, right? You take good care of them. You work 24/7. You spend 10 years not sleeping very much. It's just great, you want it to stay. And then things, eventually, you hand it off to someone else, or you jump ship and you say, no, I'm going to start something else. I've got this other idea. So you hand it off to someone else to run. I've got a new idea, and I'm going to build that idea. And off I go to start a new cycle. It can be as big scale like peak oil. Oh look, we found this stuff, we can burn it, it makes heat. We can power things with it. Ooh, let's do that for a long time. Let's keep doing that. Oh, but it's running out. Oh, but we have to keep using it, we like this part. Right? So, but new ideas have to start. Because it's a finite resource. And this has been going on for decades and decades and decades, right? But it's on the decline, like it or not. So something's closing, but something new has to begin to grow. Right? So when I was 16 years old, I was driving a car with leaded gasoline. And now I'm driving a hybrid. And by 2030, I'll have to be driving an electric car. But right now where I live, electric cars are charged by the electricity plant that's run by burning coal. So I'm not doing that yet. So this model of change, it's not something you can stop just by standing in the middle and demanding that it stay the same. Life is going to close. And you can decide whether that's going to be disastrous or conscious. Right? You get to decide. And you get to decide if you're at the end of a life cycle in some project, in some organization, whatever scope or scale. That's the beauty of this. It works at all these different scopes and scales. Am I going to attend to this closing so that this compost actually nourishes whatever grows next? So in an organization, these are your people who carry the legacy, the ancestry, the learning forward. We don't forget our ancestors and our learning and our legacy. We carry them with us across to the new. And once we know what that is, it helps us let go of the things that are going to close, because we know what we can carry with us. So this is when I get a phone call, most of the time, right here. When something is ending, something is dying, and something new is waiting to be born. And I get to midwife it in, and I get to hospice this end, and help that be born. And this is the way to do that. And Chang's going to layer in the more formal language. I just like the garden language. So I'm going to walk away now. Thank you, Grandma.
Here comes the engineer. Thank you. So that is what I think we all feel in our body if we work with people around us, with nature. And if we take a snapshot of when the shift, the transformation happened, the Berkane Institute take a snapshot and gave it a few terms so that we have like shared vocabularies to talk to each other when we talk about system change. So in this snapshot, we call this the dominant system. So the system that is dominating now, like cars using oil, and this thing emerging here, we call it the emerging system. So something that is arising, that is coming up. Many people know about it, not all of us. It's not the most popular thing. And most of us, when we are in the emerging systems, we really want everyone to know about it. But we can't. So in this dominant system, at this point, like Tracy said, many people, especially if we live in the mechanistic worldview, we really want this to stay. And if something is wrong, we want to fix it and hope that it goes on forever. And in the living system worldview, we know that the life cycle doesn't go that way. So in this space where the dominant system is speaking, we see the role of steward, who observe the system, knowing what might be needed. They are part of the system.
Steward.
So they are part of the system, of the dominating system, but they are seeing, sensing what is going on. And they try to see how can we open the pathway for the living system to live. And at the same time, like there are seats over here. Those are the people who walk out of the dominating system. They may be people who decided to leave, or they have always felt left out, or simply they are younger generations who were born into a different worldview from their previous generation. So they innovate, they come up, they see that, oh, there are these new ideas, new things going on. And maybe there is a chance to see things differently. And so if we find names for those things, and the names help people come together. Like many people come here because we know the term of participatory process, participatory leadership, or systemic change or something like that, and we hear those terms, we come together because we know we want to connect with these people. And we need the role of connecting. Someone who help people to connect into a network so that we start doing good work together. But the network will not sustain forever if people move on with their life, and ideas may die out if we don't nourish those. And if these are nourished, can become a more well-connected community of practitioners, or communities that learn. And it keeps going on. If these ideas make sense for a living system and people continue to welcome it will be illuminated. It can be the role of illuminators who help these ideas, these new systems, to become popular, and then life goes on. It becomes a dominating system until another system is merging. And the thing is, not everyone wants to walk this long path. And what about things that's going on over here? Like Tracy said, lots of good stuff happening here that we don't want to forget. And we want to bring a conscious closure. In some materials, in most materials, it's called the hospice work. So to help those, like there are people who spend all their life building up this system, and they will not let go easily. So how can we host that conscious closure with a lot of care, with a lot of love, with a lot of honor and respect to all the work that was already spent on building this beautiful thing. And a lot of wisdom can become the compost. So there's a role of composting, helping all the good things from this dominating system to continue nurturing the emerging system instead of eliminating it.
Bless you.
Isn't it? And like we said, some people are like looking into the new system, not sure how to get there. Because like I'm over here and like I didn't go through all of this. I'm not connected with all the innovators and community of practitioners and so on. But I'm looking for a way to get there. So from here I go a little bit here, and there are people in this new system who also want to reach out to people in the dominating system. They're trying to get a little bit there. So the bridge is built from both sides. And there are roles of bridging. And before we reflect a bit on our role in the current system, Tracy, do you want to add something? Yes, question?
Could you say something more about the difference between stewarding and hospicing?
Can you?
I can. So in an organization, you might have the leader of the organization, the CEO or the executive director, whatever kind of organization you have. And this stewarding is like taking care of the whole, right? All the folks who work here, all the projects, all the goals, all of the vision. That's the job of this person to lead this. In an ideal world, that person also would be able to lead the conscious closure. I've not yet met that person. There's an ownership here, and it's important. And so this is a role that often comes in from the outside, someone to help with this process, to make it visible that something actually does need to be hospiced into its end. And I think often in the system when this is happening, when all of this is happening at once, the folks who have been there a long time, who are like the historians, the archivists, will start speaking up. Like, but we're going to lose everything we've ever done. And those people are really important in this phase, to step into leadership, to really begin carrying forward that archive, that information. And at the same time, this person's role includes protecting those little seeds, those innovators, because this system wants to crush them, right? Because this is the new system trying to create something different, which in our minds means this is bad or wrong or no good anymore. Doesn't mean that's true, but that's the tension begins here. And so this leader, the steward, actually needs to protect and resource this new emerging system if there's ever going to be a bridge into the new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but usually in a company it is very difficult because usually the CEO or the steward that's overlooking everything is usually also not, has also been already a long time in the system. So for this person being able to identify the seeds, that is, I think, sometimes even the hardest struggle, so that you are in time to accept that as a steward, you don't have all the knowledge of the world, but you have to acknowledge that. So isn't that the
It's a lot of
it's
tension.
the hardest, almost the hardest part?
Yeah.
It's more harder part than, if you already identified that you need those seeds to build this new lifeline, then the rest is easier.
I think you're right on that. I would say it depends on whether is this person a visionary person who can see into the future that the world is changing. What we're doing now isn't going to serve 20 years out. We're going to have to innovate some new things. So the corporate example of this is when Steve Jobs set up a research and development division and kept it secret. And it pulled all of the most innovative, talented folks he had and locked them away in a building that wasn't labeled as being part of this company, and resourced them, nourished them, connected them, and then one day showed up in his black turtleneck and pulled an iPhone out of his pocket in front of all of us. That was hidden because it disrupted the system. But he knew this system isn't going to continue. There's a leap to be had. So that's like the big corporate example of a leader having enough vision far enough forward to protect something new to grow. And there are leaders like that in the world. It's not very common in kind of regular,
Usually it's management. It's not
management,
visionary.
exactly, right. It's not leading for emergence. So that's one of the differences we're pointing to in that chaotic path, that there's the management kind of to get more of the same and more of the same and more of the same, and that's where this can get kind of stuck. And so both kinds of leadership are needed at different places. Yeah.
And if you don't have conscious closure, you're quite likely to get unconscious closure.
Yes,
Yeah.
really, really damaging closure.
Yeah,
Just
so
like
and so.
Exactly. All of those companies that just refuse to change and collapse. And often these people don't get protected, they get fired or they quit because there's no support in the system, right? They step out of the system and they start on their own and they're not resourced and they're not connected and sometimes they find each other and start a new startup, right? Yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah, what about transformation? So not closure is closure, but reimagining and reinventing yourself.
Yeah,
So I don't see it as a closure,
sure.
but more as kind of
Something
like how
changes.
you can transition
Yeah.
to a new beginning somehow.
And in that situation, this system still has to, like, we still want a paycheck. We still need somebody to hold this system together to make sure we're getting paid so those people can build something, so we can start building this bridge into the new and we can all walk across it. Right? It might happen internally if this shift is made, that kind of transition. I work with the Norwegian American Museum.